Okay, we're trying again on Facebook. Go one more time around the Nigun. Let's see. Turn the phone around to record you dancing. Oh, that was great. Nah. Okay, so Facebook, a serious technology company, but can't hold the connection on the phone. This time, hopefully it's going to work. L'chaim. So funny, on the phone, everything's backwards, so I'm left-handed now. Okay, so preparation for Yom Kippur. B'ezrat Hashem, learning from the Ma'am Chai V'Re'ai, Reb Shlomo. On Yom Kippur, well, first we'll talk about the 10 days of Tshuva, right? So now we're on the 10 days of Tshuva. And this was a story that you heard already on Shabbos. That Reb Shlomo said he read a story about a professor. He was a big professor in a big university, and for whatever reason, he became a drunk. And eventually he got to the point where he couldn't teach anymore. And the university kicked him out, and he lost his job. And his friend is saying, what are we going to do? We can't let our friend just stay in this drunken state. So they decided to get him a room in a 5-star hotel, and clean him up and get him some nice clothes and try to get him back on his feet. And they come back the next day to the hotel, they knock on his door, and they see he's no longer wearing the nice clothes. He's back in his old dirty clothes. Can you hear me okay? Okay. He's back in his old dirty clothes, and they say to him, what's going on? And he says, no, I decided to stay a drunk. I can't do it. So Reb Shlomo says this is a story for us. Right, we're in the 10 days of Tshuva. And now we're trying to do Tshuva. And Hashem's saying, okay, now I'm putting you in the 5-star hotel, and I'm giving you new clothes. And are we going to be like the drunk? Or B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be able to come back to who we're really supposed to be. So, on Yom Kippur, we come to Shul, and everybody's asking forgiveness from their friends. You know, my sweetest friends, that last year we promised Hashem so much, and we kept so little. We lost our self-confidence. We lost our belief in ourselves. And so, on the night of Yom Kippur, which is Yom Kippurim, we find ourselves, we take out the Torahs from the Aron Kodesh, right on Kol Nidre, take out all the Sifrei Torah, and we say, and we go around, and we ask forgiveness from the Torah. We say to the Torah, I wish I had kept more of you. I'm so sorry that I was so distant from you, and that I didn't keep more of every word that was written in you. So that's the first service on Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre. On the night of Yom Kippur, of course the davening is like the highest davening of the year. We're davening with a lot of joy, singing and dancing, like Michael Abraham just did before. And I always tell my friends, in the simplest way, imagine that you owe the bank $1 million, and you have no way of returning the money. And all of a sudden, you get a letter from the bank. So now it might be an email from the bank or a text message from the bank. And it says, you don't need to pay. And not only that, do you not only not need to pay back the $1 million loan, they're giving you another $1 million loan. So tell me, friends, would I go around depressed and sad that I couldn't pay back the debt from last year? What do you want? The bank is saying that they're forgiving me, and they're giving me a loan for the next year. He said that's what Hashem is doing for us on Yom Kippur. When Hashem forgives me and gives me a new year, isn't that a time that we should be happy? He says Yom Kippur should be the happiest day of the year because everything's been forgiven and we're getting a new loan for the next year. All the holy tzaddikim say that on Yom Kippur, these are the happiest days of the year because my neshama is full of joy and happiness. On Yom Kippur, we don't eat. It's not because we're fasting, but it's because the abundance that's coming down from heaven is so deep. It's like the man that came down when we were in the desert. And so everybody knows that the later it gets in the fast of Yom Kippur, the easier it is to fast. In those last minutes of Yom Kippur, you're not hungry at all. If somebody asks you at the end of Yom Kippur if you're hungry, you'd say to him, no, I'm not hungry at all. I could fast for another week. In the last minutes of Yom Kippur, in Ni'ilah, this is the time when we pour out our hearts to be truly close to Hashem, to be really close to each other and love each other. You know what's Ni'ilah? Ni'ilah, of course, means the closing, the locking of the gates. This is as if Hashem is saying to each one of us, the whole day I was together with all of the Jewish people. And now in these last minutes of Yom Kippur, I want you to come into my room and I'm going to lock the door. And it's just going to be you and me together. That's Hashem saying, what Hashem says to us in the Ni'ilah. I can ask anything from Hashem at that moment. Hashem says to us, Hashem tells us what He wants from us, and we can ask Hashem whatever we want from Him. So I'm blessing all of you, and you should bless me back, that we should remember that this is the deepest time, that we should be happy during this time. And I'm blessing you with the sweetest year, a good Yom Kippur and a good Yom Tov. You know, on Ni'ilah, before the gates are closed, Kivyachol, how do you say Kivyachol? As if.
Yeah.
As if. Huh?
I think as it were.
As it were. Kivyachol. Right? It's as if the gates were being closed on Ni'ilah. The gates are, he says that the gates are actually never closed, right? Because the gates of prayer are always open. And how do we know this? We know this from Moshe Rabbeinu, who davened 515 times to come into the land of Israel. And Hashem said to him, don't daven that last one because I'll have to answer you. It always reminds me of my kids when they ask for candy. Like candy, 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 and leave me alone, leave me alone. Candy, 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 candy. And like, don't say it one more time, I'll have to have a lockbox, right? Open the box and give you the candy. And so, because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say that last prayer, he left the gates of prayer open for all of us. So, we know that even though on Ni'ilah, there's some type of something happening, some type of closing, it's not that the gates are closed forever or for that year. And on Ni'ilah, it's Hashem saying, I'm bringing you to the highest place, into my inner chamber, into my innermost chamber. And every Jew is there in the innermost chamber with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Hashem, and Hashem says, I'm going to give you a little invitation. I'm inviting you to come for 1 week into my sukkah, into my summer home, into my spa. That's what he says here. Beit HaMargoah Sheli, into my spa. And I want you to come for a week, and I'm going to heal your heart, and I'm going to heal your soul. and I'm going to give you strength for the coming year. You know what's the true test to know if Hashem has forgiven you on Yom Kippur? What's the true test? If you can really scream at the top of your lungs, Nachman, Meuman. And it comes from your kishkas. Well, that's not what he says here. He says the real test is that when you enter into the sukkah, do you feel like you were invited into the sukkah by Hashem? Do you feel like Hashem wanted you to be there? So I'm asking you, parents, please bring your children into the sukkah. The sukkah, Sukkot, Uzman Simchatenu, it's the time of our happiness, right? Shabbos is for oneg, Shabbos is for pleasure, and delight, like pleasure in connecting with Hashem. But the holidays, the Chagim, we're not talking about Chanukah and Purim, we're talking about Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. That's Man Simchatenu. That's the time when we're supposed to be happy. It says your hearts are exploding from joy. Good Yantiv. Right, so we know that the Kohen Gadol, when the time of the temple was around, would send messengers to see if the Jews were happy on the Chagim. Because that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to be happy. On Shabbos, the mitzvah is oneg. So we have 3 meals, because normally people would eat 2 meals. So you eat 1 meal in the morning or late morning and 1 meal at night. And that's how everyone ate. But on Shabbos, we have 3 meals. That's why it's considered special. There's no mitzvah to have 3 meals on Yom Tov, for example. The mitzvah on Yom Tov is to be happy. It's man simchatim. Okay. So that's a little bit from Reb Shlomo. Play something here before Michael goes. You're not leaving yet, are you? And I have some stories. What else I'm going to play later? Okay, so some stories. Zot Hashem. First, Vlad the drunk, L'chaim. This is a story that Reb Shlomo would tell. I'm going to post it on Facebook tomorrow. Zot Hashem. So, Vlad was the town drunk. And Vlad had a problem. He didn't have any money. So, no money, no alcohol. Can't be a drunk if you don't have any alcohol. So Vlad says, no problem. I know where there's alcohol. It's hidden in the church. So he breaks into the church, and they have their wine that the galach uses. Right? It's called the galach because he put a bowl and shave his head around or shave his place in the middle. So in Yiddish they call him a galach. So the galach keeps his wine there for their ceremonies, and Vlad breaks into the church and finds the wine, and he drinks the wine, and he's very happy. And he's getting a bit drunk, and then he's just looking around, and he looks in the closet, and what does he see? He sees the galach has some clothes there, and they're kind of fancy clothes. So he puts on a robe, and he puts on a little, whatever they call that thing, a tallis, and he puts on, not a tallis, but whatever they call that thing that they wear, and he puts on the hat, and looks at himself in the mirror, and he's pretty happy. Drinks some more. Eventually falls asleep on the couch or whatever it was there, the bench that was in the room there. He wakes up in the morning. He doesn't remember anything. Doesn't remember how he got there. Doesn't remember how he got drunk. But he looks at himself and he says, am I the priest? I'm a priest? My whole life I thought I was a drunk. But now I see I'm a priest. He gets up, he looks in the mirror, he says, oh, Vlad the priest, I look pretty good as a priest. So he says, wait a minute, I wasn't a priest before. How did I become a priest? Would I forget everything? Am I totally confused? He said, I know there's one way that I can tell. The priest knows how to read. Vlad doesn't know how to read. He opens up the, whatever they call their prayer book. Turns it this way, turns it that way. He comes to the conclusion. He says, the whole time the priest was keeping a secret from me. The priest also can't read. So that's the story. And what's the nimshal? What's the analog? When you're judging your own transgressions, are you going to be like Vlad the Galach and not look at the truth? Or are you going to make things up and ignore what you actually did? Right? Because Vlad, of course, he knew that the priest could read. But instead of denying that he wasn't the priest, it was much more fun for him to say, the priest also can't read. That's the story. Vlad the priest. So there was one Yom Kippur. I've got some short stories and then a long story. There was one Yom Kippur where there was a Jew. He was rushing to the Baal Shem Tov. And I don't remember who it was. It was one of the Baal Shem Tov's close Hasidim. And I don't remember which one it was. So he's rushing, and it's taking him days to get there, but he's watching the clock, and he knows how long it's supposed to take. And just outside of Mezhibuz, you've probably been there, there's some little town where these Jews were getting together, and they stop this chassid, and they say, please, it's an emergency. And the chassid gets off his horse, and he says, yeah, tell me what's going on. They said, we need you. You're the 10th man for the minyan for Yom Kippur. He says, I'm sorry. You'll have to find somebody else. I've been traveling for days to be by the Baal Shem Tov. I got to get to the Baal Shem. He gets to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov ignores him all Yom Kippur. So he stays for Sukkot, and every day of Sukkot, the Baal Shem Tov won't even look at him. Simchat Torah, the same thing. And this chassid doesn't understand him, but made such an effort to get to the Baal Shem Tov, his holy Rebbe, and he won't even look at him. Right? Somebody said to me the other day, if the worst thing you can do to a person is ignore them. Was it you that said it? It was Michael Shalem. Shlomo Karlebach said that. Okay. So somebody, I think it was Michael Shalem that told me this. He said the worst thing you can do to a person is ignore them. You know, come to a person, hi Amal, you're welcome. You come to a person and you say to him, I've been so angry at you for so long because you did this to me and you did that to me. And the guy says, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know who you are. Right? That's the worst thing that you could do to a person. So the Baal Shem Tov is not even paying attention to this chassid. And he's feeling like the worst of the worst. Now the holidays are over and he has to go back home. And he tries one more time by the Baal Shem Tov. And he goes to him and says, Rebbe, please, you've got to tell me what's going on here. And the Baal Shem Tov said, you don't understand. You know that minyan that you passed up when you were the 10th man for Yom Kippur? He said, Rebbe, yeah, but they probably found someone else. I needed to be here by you. That's what I was traveling for days to get here for. He said, no, you don't understand. The whole reason Hashem put you into this world was for you to be the 10th man of that minyan. So he said, I daven for you to have another chance. But that opportunity you already missed. Okay, we'll play a little and then some more stories. Shem Tov, when he first started, I don't know if you know, the Baal Shem Tov traveled around all the time. The Maggid of Mezrich, who was his successor, pretty much stayed in Mezrich the whole time. And he had a problem with his legs, so he couldn't walk, but still he could have gotten on a wagon and gone around. The Baal Shem Tov, when he started, his mission in the world was to spread Chassidus. Right? He came to, however tzaddikim reach these high places in Gan Eden and in Shemayim, he came to the palace of Mashiach, the Baal Shem Tov, and he says to Mashiach, when are you coming? And Mashiach said, when you're teaching this are spread around the world, when your well springs are spread outwards. That's, for example, the shul we're in is called Mayanot because of that. When your well springs, Mayanotecha, are Vayafutzu, I don't know what it was, you spread them outwards. So the Baal Shem Tov, he traveled all the time, and I have a couple of stories about the Baal Shem Tov traveling, and also he started sending shluchim. He started sending his own students to be the rabbis of communities, and that enabled the teachings of Chassidus to spread. So the Baal Shem Tov sent one of his top students to a town that was very far away from Mezrich, wherever it was, from Mezhibuz, sorry. And, I mean, we're talking like several weeks of a journey. And this guy, he comes to town, he sets up a shul, people start to come, sets up a an early Chabad house. People start to come. And this guy is thinking, it's going really well for me. I've got a nice community, and I've got all these rich people in the community, and we're building a shul, and everything's going great. And he thinks to himself, what else could I ask for in life? Everything's going great. And then one Shabbos, he wakes up Shabbos morning, and he says, you know what? I want to become a Christian. He just has this thought, I want to become a Christian. And he goes by the church, and he sees the doors, and he won't let himself go in. So he comes back home, and he's got this urge again. I want to convert. I want to convert. I want to convert. He's got to convert. So he doesn't know what to do. So he decides to lock the door and stick the key under the door so that he can't unlock the door. And he's sitting there in the room, but at some point the urge is so strong, he breaks the door. And then he says to himself, okay, I'll go by the church, I'll talk with the priest, but of course I'm not going to become a Christian. I would never do such a thing. And he goes to the church, Shabbos morning, and he comes in the church. And the priest says to him, Rabbi, what are you doing here? Isn't it time for you to be in synagogue? And he says, I'm thinking about converting to Christianity. I want to become a Christian. And the priest says, oh, really? I've been waiting for this moment. It's about time, Rabbi. Please come and have a seat in my office. And the rabbi comes into the priest's office, and the priest says, take a few minutes. I just have to arrange some things. And the rabbi's sitting there, and he says to himself, okay, what am I going to do? So he sees there's a little bit of alcohol, and he starts to drink whatever it was. I guess it was some non-kosher wine. He's drinking the wine. He's trying to get himself out of this crazy state of mind. And in the meantime, the priest, every time he comes into the office and he sees the rabbi sitting there, he says to him, I have to take care of something else. There's a confession here, and there's something else I have to do there. And he's constantly busy with things, and the day is passing. Nobody knows where the rabbi is. Everybody's looking around town for him. They never thought to look in the church for him. And eventually, it's getting towards the end of Shabbos, and the rabbi is not doing very well. At this point, he's pretty drunk, and he's basically passed out on the floor. The Baal Shem Tov, when he would get to the third meal, with his holy vision, he would see where all of the rabbis that he sent out were. And one by one, he would go from town to town and see how they were doing until he came across this one chassid of his. And he saw the situation that he was in. So he says to one of his chassidim, he said, take this challah, and he gives him one of the challahs from the Suda Shlishit. He said, now it's dark enough, Shabbos is over, I want you to go outside with this challah and go to this chassid. And the chassid said to the Baal Shem Tov, but he's weeks away. How am I supposed to get there? The Baal Shem Tov, he said, you just hold on to this challah and walk into the darkness, and you'll see you'll get there. So, one thing that a chassid knows is you follow what the Rebbe tells you. He walks out the door. It's totally dark. He's walking in the darkness. He feels like he's in some mud, some quicksand. He's walking, and finally he walks out of this mud, this thickness, and there he is in the town 3 weeks away. Kfitzat derech. There's a story about how Hashem got kfitzat derech, so maybe if I have time I'll tell you that as well. So he jumped from one place to the next, and there he is, and he's inside the church, in the priest's office, and he sees the rabbi is laying on the floor in some disgusting stuff, and he tries to wake up the rabbi, and he eventually gets the rabbi up, and the rabbi sees the state that he's in. Welcome. And he says, you got to wake up, and he said, I'm determined to become a Christian. I've got to become a Christian. I can't stop myself. So the chassid said, here, the holy Baal Shem Tov gave me this challah. He said to bring it to you. Let's say hamotzi on it. So they wash quickly. They say hamotzi, and as soon as he takes a bite of the challah, he's no longer drunk and no longer wants to think about becoming a Christian. So the chassid says, come, we have to go back to the Baal Shem Tov. And the rabbi says, what are you talking about? It's going to take us 3 weeks to get there. So just like I came here, we'll go back. Let's go. And so they go outside with whatever's left, the half a challah, and they walk into the darkness, and again, they feel this thickness, and they're like in quicksand, and they're in the mud, and then they're out of the mud, And there they are by the Baal Shem Tov, and he's just finishing the third meal. The Baal Shem Tov tells the rabbi, his chassid, come sit down, and when Shabbos is over, they get together. And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, I want to explain to you what happened. Everything was going well for you. You didn't have any temptations. Your only temptation was your ego. You thought that you're such a great rabbi, that you created this great community, and you lost touch with what you really were supposed to be doing. So the Satan was called in and given you a test that you couldn't resist. And your test was that you would want to become a Christian. So here you were in the church, and I was able to see where you were, and there was no way you were going to get out of that. Your ego wasn't going to be big enough to get you out of that one. So I sent my chassid, and my chassid pulled you out of it. And now that you've learned your lesson, you can go back and be the rabbi that you're supposed to be. All right, we'll play another song. Okay, so Kvitzat Derech of the Baal Shem Tov, since I see we have a little time. So, the Baal Shem Tov, one of his closest Hasidim, was David Kitrish, I'm pretty sure was his name. And one day he said to David, here's some diamonds. I want you to go to this particular town. He's going to have to go to Amsterdam or wherever it was and sell the diamonds and bring me back whatever you get from your trip. So David, he gets on the boat with the diamonds, and they're on the trip, and however it worked, they eventually came to these islands, and the islands had provisions, so they picked up bananas and whatever other things they needed, fresh water at this island. And Reb David was very happy to be off the boat, and he's walking around the island, and he comes back, and he realizes that the boat is gone. So he's not sure what to do. He starts looking around, and after searching for an entire day, he finds this little town. And he's amazed to find on the first house there's a mezuzah on the door. Then he sees mezuzah after mezuzah. Every single house has a mezuzah, and sure enough, he finds a shul. And of course, he's on an island, he's got to find another shul. Right? Everybody knows the joke, the guy who builds two shuls because there's one he won't daven in. So, but it's totally abandoned. No one's there, nothing's happening. But at least he has a place to stay, so he's hanging out in this house, and there's a little bit of food there. It's actually Shabbos food, it's leftover Shabbos food, so he's able to keep himself going. And on Friday morning, he wakes up in the morning and he hears this huge commotion in the town. All these people running around. So he comes out of the house and he runs over to this guy and he says, "What's going on? What is this?" The guy says, "Sorry, I'm getting ready for Shabbos. Can't talk with you right now." He goes over to somebody else. The guy's got a chicken under his arm. He said, "I'm running to the shochet. I can't talk with you right now." Everyone's just like flying past him. Can't get a hold of anyone. Everyone's so busy getting ready for Shabbos. He's trying to figure out what's going on here. And eventually somebody walks into the house that he's staying in. And the person walks into the house. He says to David, "What are you doing here?" And David says, "What do you mean? I've been here for an entire week by myself. What are you doing here? Where did you guys come from? Like, that's not important right now. We're getting ready for Shabbos, and that's the only thing that matters." He said, "Okay." So this guy says, "Listen, I'm the rabbi of this community, and I'm inviting you to my house for Shabbos. You're welcome to stay here. Shalom Aleichem. Come on in. You're welcome to stay here and spend Shabbos with us." So, how you doing? Good to see you. Come on in. So he has a beautiful Shabbos. Everybody has their meals, and there's beautiful davening, and this is like on an abandoned island. So everything's going great for him. He's stuck on the island, but at least he's stuck with a Jewish community, and they have good cholent, and I'm assuming good whiskey. So life is not so bad. Motzei Shabbos, the rabbi makes Havdalah, and everybody puts their fingers into the wine and goes like this over their eyes, and one by one, everyone in the town disappears, except for David, who's there all by himself. And for the whole week, there's leftovers from Shabbos, and he's able to keep going. And the next Friday, he wakes up in the morning, and he hears the commotion again. Everybody's running in the streets. So he goes over, and he says, "Where did you guys go? Where did you guys go?" I'm like, "I can't talk now. Got to get ready for Shabbos." Nobody can talk with him. Eventually the rabbi walks into the house, and he says, Reb David says to the rabbi, "Where did you guys go? What's going on here?" And the rabbi says, "I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you what's going on. Maybe Motzei Shabbos I'll be able to tell you." So he spends the whole Shabbos with them. A beautiful Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos, everybody goes like this, and they all start disappearing one by one. But Reb David, he didn't want to spend the week there by himself. He grabs the rabbi's hand and he says, "Listen, you're not going to disappear on me. You've got to tell me what's going on here." So the rabbi says, "We're part of a Jewish community that was murdered in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. And we weren't meant to, that the whole community should be murdered. And Hashem decided that he was going to give us some type of fixing. And the fixing was going to be that every Friday and Shabbos we would come down from the upper realms and spend Shabbos in this world. Because there's nothing like Shabbos in this world. And so we're only here for Shabbos. We're here for Friday to prepare for Shabbos, and we're here for Shabbos, and then we disappear and we go back upstairs." And that's our reward. That's like what we got for this kind of, as it were, mistake. So Reb David said, "That's very fine for you, but what am I going to do? I'm stuck here and I'm abandoned on this island." So the rabbi says, "Okay, I'm going to help you." And he takes a parchment and writes out the Aleph Bet. And he says, "I want you to take this parchment and go stand by the shore, put your feet on the water, and look at the letters, and wherever you're thinking about, you'll be there." And then the rabbi goes like this and disappears. So Reb David spends the night, and in the morning he goes down to the shore. He's got his feet in the water, and he looks at the piece of paper and he's thinking, "I want to be back by the holy Baal Shem Tov." And he looks at the letters, and when he takes it down, he's standing in front of the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, "Reb David, you're back. Tell me, what happened?" And he said, "You won't believe it, the incredible story." And then he says, "And you see this paper?" And the Baal Shem Tov quickly grabs the paper out of his hand, and he says, "Thank you. I needed you to get that for me, because I'm going to need that paper in order to fulfill my mission on this planet. To be able to do kfitzat derech, to reach Jews wherever they are in the world." So that's the story of Reb David and kfitzat derech. So the previous story where the Baal Shem Tov was able to send his chassid Obviously, you'd reached a higher level. Now you could do it with challah, and not just with a piece of paper. Okay, so I have one more story for you. We'll play a little song for the story. You're going? You're going to have to watch this online. It's a good story. Baal Shem passed away, just before the Baal Shem passed away, he gave all of his Hasidim different missions. So there was one Chassid named Yankele, and Yankele's mission, Baal Shem told him, your job is to tell stories about me. And Yankele said, well, Rebbe, we've been together for so many years, and I know all these stories about you, but really, I have to travel around like a carnival, like somebody in the carnival, and just tell stories about you, like some wandering musician. I've got a wife and family, I've got a business, I can't just leave everything. The Baal Shem Tov said, yep, that's your mission. Your job is to go around and tell stories about me. He said, but Rebbe, how am I going to know when to stop? Am I going to do this forever, for the rest of my life? The Baal Shem Tov said, it'll be clear to you. The sign will be clear to you when it's time for you to stop telling the stories. So the Baal Shem Tov passed away. Everybody knows that the Baal Shem Tov passed away on Shavuot. And David HaMelech also on Shavuot. On Shabbat it was on Shavuot? Oh, it was on Shavuot, so I know he passed away on Shavuot. So the Baal Shem Tov passes away, and Yankele says goodbye to his wife and kids, and starts going around telling stories of the Baal Shem Tov. And he gets paid a little bit here, a little bit there. He's barely making a living. It's been going on for many months now. And he hears that there's a wealthy Jew in Siena, in Italy, who's willing to pay 50 liras for every Baal Shem Tov story that's told. So this chassid, he says to himself, now I understand. The Rebbe, he really thought about me. He said, I don't want Yankele to have to work anymore. Just go to this wealthy Jew, tell him 100 or 200 stories, I get 50 liras a story, and I'm retired for life. I love my Rebbe, he's such a great man. So he works his way to Siena, and he gets to this huge mansion and this wealthy Jew, and he says to him, I am the designated story of the Baal Shem Tov, and I've been on hundreds of journeys with the Baal Shem Tov, and I know hundreds, if not thousands, of stories, and I can tell you stories left and right. And the wealthy man says, great, I'm willing to pay you a lot of money for that. And he says, you know what, Shabbos is coming, why don't we organize a huge community meal here in the courtyard of my mansion? We'll have a beautiful meal, and you'll just tell us stories of the Baal Shem Tov. So Yankele says, great, I'm excited, good deal. And the wealthy man invites everyone in the community, and everybody's sitting there, and the candles are lit, and the tables are set, and everybody's enjoying a great meal. And then the wealthy man says, okay, let me have everyone's attention. Yankele here is a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov. He's going to tell us some stories of the Baal Shem Tov. And Yankele gets up, and he can't remember a single story. Can't remember anything. The host says, don't worry about it, it's fine. I'm sure you're tired after your journey. You rest, and maybe tomorrow at the Shabbos meal you'll tell us some stories. So, Shabbos day, he's sitting there with the family, can't remember one story. Same thing, the third meal, Milava Malka. He says to the wealthy Jew, he says to him, I'm really sorry, I wasn't lying to you. I really do know all these stories. I really was on all these journeys with the Baal Shem Tov. He really did designate me to be a storyteller, but I can't remember any of them. I don't understand what's happening. The wealthy man said, it's fine. That's fine, thank you. He gives him a little bit of money. He says, thank you very much for coming. He says, if you think of something, come back, because I'd still like to hear the stories. So Yankele goes on his way, and he's not so happy. Can't remember any of the stories. He's traveling. He's already a few kilometers outside of Siena. Can't remember any stories. And then he passes by this little town, and he sees these shutters on the side of a house, and it reminds him of a story. And he runs back. He goes quickly back to the wealthy man, and he says to him, I have good news for you. I remember the story. And he notices that the wealthy man's face is pale, and his eyes are red, and he'd been crying. And Yankele says, what happened? I haven't even been gone that long. Did somebody die? He said, no, nobody died. Everything is fine. Come, Yankele, sit down. Tell me the story. So Yankele says, well, I don't remember the beginning. And I don't remember the end. I just remember the middle. That's all I remember. And the wealthy man says, it's fine. Whatever you remember, I want to hear it, please. So he says, okay, here's what happened. One day the Baal Shem Tov says, let's go, puts a bunch of us, of the Hasidim in the wagon, and we go to this town, here in Italy, not so far from here. And we get to the Jewish quarter of the town, and we see that all of the houses are closed. All the windows are closed. Everybody's hiding in their homes. There's going to be a pogrom. So the Baal Shem Tov, he goes, there's like a main square, and there's a stage there where the bishop was going to come and get everybody roused up for the pogrom. And the Baal Shem Tov picks the house directly across from the stage. And he goes and he knocks on the door, and nobody answers because they're scared to death. They're all behind the locked doors and windows. He's knocking. Finally, somebody opens the door a little crack, and they say, what do you want? A Jew, what do you want? You're going to get killed in the streets. What are you doing out here? He says, it's me, Yisrael, the Baal Shem Tov. Open the door, I have to get in. The guy opens the door, and the Baal Shem and the Hasidim, they come into the house, and the guy quickly closes the door and locks the door. The Baal Shem Tov says, please, you have to trust me. Everything's going to be fine. He opens up all the windows in this guy's house, so he has a good view of the stage. And quickly the crowds start to come, and people are coming with their knives and their pitchforks and whatever, their torches or whatever they're coming with. And eventually the bishop shows up, and there's a crowd of hundreds and hundreds of people. And the Baal Shem Tov, this is Yankele telling the story, the Baal Shem Tov turns to me and says, Yankele, go to the bishop and tell him that the Baal Shem Tov wants to see him now. So Yankele, not fearing for his life, because he knows the Baal Shem Tov sent him on this journey, he walks out the door, and everyone's shocked to see a Jew. They're all about to kill a bunch of Jews, so they don't understand what's going on here. And the sea parts, And Yankele walks straight up onto the stage and goes over to the bishop and whispers into his ear, "The Baal Shem Tov wants to see you." And the bishop looks pale, and he looks shocked. And he says to Yankele, "Tell the Baal Shem Tov 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes." So Yankele comes back, and everybody parts, and he goes back into the house. And the Baal Shem Tov says, "No, what do you say?" And Yankele says, "The bishop said 5 minutes. He needs 5 minutes." The Baal Shem Tov said, "No, I don't have 5 minutes. You go back there, and you tell him right now. The Baal Shem Tov said right now. Not 5 minutes." So he goes. Yankele goes through the crowd, and he goes to the bishop, and he says, "The Holy Rebbe says now." And the bishop turns around and walks with Yankele through the crowd into the house. The Baal Shem Tov takes the bishop into a back room. He closes the door, and they're there for hours, 4 or 5 hours. In the meantime, with the bishop not there, the crowd disperses. There was no pogrom. And eventually the bishop comes out, and he's in tears. And the Baal Shem Tov says to the Hasidim, "Okay, we can go home now." And Yankele says, "That's it. See, I told you, I didn't remember the end. At the beginning, I don't remember the end. I just remember the middle." And he looks at the wealthy Jew, and the wealthy Jew, he's crying. And Yankele says, why was that such a sad story? Why are you crying? And the wealthy Jew says, "You don't recognize me just because I have a beard now? I'm the bishop." And Yankele says, "How can that be? But you're a Jew. You can't be a bishop if you're a Jew." He said, "You have to understand, my family, we were so poor, we didn't have any money, and eventually I made my way to the church for some food, and then they convinced me to stick around, and I figured it wasn't so bad, and I ended up becoming a Christian, and then I worked up my ranks in the church, and here I was a bishop. But it wasn't enough, because everybody knew that I was a Jew. They never really considered me like one of them, so I had to prove my worth. And how did I do it? By having pogroms, by killing Jews. The Baal Shem Tov sent you to me, and he said, the Baal Shem Tov has to see me now. And I came to see the Baal Shem Tov, and I said to him, "Rebbe, what do I do? How do I do tshuva? How do I come back to Hashem when I've gone so far?" And the Baal Shem Tov gave me a path, and he said that I have to live a religious life, I have to have a family and get married, and he blessed me that I should be successful in business, and you can see that I was. I said to the Baal Shem Tov all the way back then, "Holy Rebbe, how am I going to know when my tshuva has been accepted?" And he said, "One day, a chassid is going to come and tell you a story. He's going to tell you this story of what happened to us here in this place. And so you showed up here at my house. And I thought, this is it. But you couldn't remember a single story. And I gave you chance after chance, and you couldn't remember a story. So I knew that my tshuva hadn't been accepted. As far as I had gone, it hadn't been enough. And so I cried, and I said, Hashem, please, you have to accept my tshuva. You have to accept it. I don't know what else to do." And then you showed up back here at the house, and you told me the rest of the story. And it was at that point that Yankele knew that he was also finished with his mission of telling stories of the Baal Shem Tov. Okay.
Real taste, because this Shabbos,
What's that?
this Shabbat, we'll be going through Yom Kippur.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I get the stories. Gmar Chatima Tova, Shana Tova Mituka. And we'll do this again after Simchat Torah, whenever that first Tuesday is. I'll post it on Facebook.
One the sukkah.